Hello and welcome back to Collegiate Pickleball Tailgate Summer Series with the CEO. I'm your host, Elliot Rothstein, and today I'm extremely fortunate to have Ben Weinberger here with me. He's the president of Pickle4 and the owner of the Pickleball Den. Ben, how are you doing this Monday?
Doing great, Elliot. Good to be here. Thanks for having us to talk all things pickleball.
Absolutely. And obviously, I want to dig deep into the business side of things and hear about Pickle4 and their future plans. But first, do you want to tell me sort of how you got into pickleball and found out about the community?
Absolutely. You know, as many people around pickleball know, it's sort of hard not to hear about pickleball. Whether you're, driving by a court that's filled with people or neighbors who are playing, friends, family, etc. I first heard of it, though, from a friend who ended up being in the pro world. And as the pro side grew and she grew in the kind of prominence of the sport and the pro world of it, I actually learned of pickleball initially from the pro angle, not necessarily the amateur angle, which for those involved know the amateur angle is the much larger overall in terms of quantity of folks.
Right. So would you say that sort of maybe some of your getting into it from the more professional angle gave you more of like a business insight look into it, that there might be money to be made and maybe a business venture was worth a stab?
Oh, I think the thing we're all trying to figure out is there money to be made, and what is the business angle? Whether there's events, technology, merchandise, all sorts of different angles. None the least of which is the sponsorship side with the pro tours and the things that are going with sort of large scale events. So as I looked at it and was fascinated, I think, by what I was hearing going on from the pro side. Like I said, everything you hear about sponsorships and the athletes who are starting to be able to make it their full-time career, earn a living, etc. It was interesting for something that not a lot of people necessarily know about, and not quite as mainstream as some of the traditional sports. So thinking about what else is there, what could there be, and then when you start digging in and you hear about the amateur side, for example, and the millions to tens of millions of players who just can't get enough pickleball and they want to play multiple times a day, multiple days a week, you start thinking the masses can't be wrong. There must be something there that is really interesting to potentially look into. With my sort of technology and media background, I thought, I bet there's a unique way to approach the sport to combine those things.
Right. And it's really interesting you say that they're still trying to figure out where the money is, but it makes a lot of sense with Pickle4, seeing as Pickle4 sort of has it's like an over encompassing company for like, a pickleball merchandise, thing, a tournament hosting. You guys had like a baseball tournament tour that was pretty cool. So clearly you're living up to the where passion meets innovation. I believe that's like the company tagline. Within like the next couple of years, where do you see that innovation going? What would be the aim?
Sure. I think like a lot of sports, there tends to be evolution from just pure passion and excitement, trying to figure out what the game really is. The rules evolve, the style of play, or even the format of play. We're even seeing that obviously with professional sports like baseball and football, basketball, soccer. They continue to evolve rules. Pickleball's in the early days as far as that goes. Even though it's been around for quite a long time, the level of interest now has seen it get a lot more focus, a lot more prominence. So tournaments are having really interesting growth right now. And in most communities and cities around the country, you'll see tournaments almost every weekend. There's an amazing amount of competitive events. But the really interesting thing is only about 3 to 4% of pickleball players play in tournaments. The other 95% or so recreational play. They play for fun at their local clubs and leagues. And it's not that they're not playing competitively. The idea, though, of competing in a tournament for a prize or a standing or a ranking is just not necessarily what they're doing it for. Versus the pros, of course, that's a really important piece of what they're doing. So I think what we'll see is continued growth of basically what's important to you. Are you in it because of athletic and social, mental health, all sorts of very positive benefits that pickleball has, or are you in it because you're extremely competitive and you want to be ranked and kind of one of the better or best maybe within your circle or even in the entire country? So I think we'll see both of those areas grow. And along with it, you'll see facilities, technology, things to improve your game on and off the court, all the normal sort of things that you see with all types of athletic endeavors.
Okay. Then I see totally the creativity behind hosting tournaments at baseball parks, because like you said, you're sort of hitting both the competitive sector of players and the community engagement entertainment sort of side. Is there a side you see that has, I don't know, more of a possibility to explode? I know there's talk of pickleball being introduced into the Olympics, in which case I'm sure both the amateur and the competitive side would sort of shoot up, but I'd imagine that there would be, I don't know, maybe more space to be made, especially if the athletes are getting that professional recognition with sponsorships and things like that. Do you see Pickle4 staying as sort of like a event holding, get exposure to amateurs, try and get them to sign to more tournaments, or maybe something that'll expand more into, relating with players and putting a product out?
I think it's an interesting sort of question and thing to tackle, within pickleball and also within other sports, when they hold, hockey games in other stadiums that aren't hockey rinks, and they do these, crossover type of events. What we really looked at was, we think it's important to provide really unique opportunities for all levels of players. So whether you're kind of an early, beginner in your pickleball journey, or you're a pro and you're a ranked, pro with one of the tours that's, earning a living. We think it's interesting and a great opportunity to provide those iconic, unique experiences. And really the pinnacle of that and how we started that was the US Open Pickleball Championships, which is, by far the largest, most influential and important pickleball event in the world, held every year in Naples, Florida. So we own that event. And this past year in Naples in April, we had over 50,000 spectators, 3,250 athletes, all 50 states, 31 different countries. So we look at that and say, that's the kind of event that people want to attend. And it's bigger than any one person or any one bracket or any one medal. It's the opportunity to be part of something really special. And we think that's really what Pickle4 has tried to do. You mentioned the ballpark events, those are interesting, like you said, very fun, unique, different events. So if we could do more things like what the US Open has been able to achieve, we think that that's a really great opportunity for not just the sport, but every person who helps make the sport what it is today.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, and with the US Open Pickleball Championships, would you see any possibility in, I don't know, opening that up to a collegiate championship type thing too? Because you mentioned how only 3 to 4% of pickleball players are actually playing tournaments. And I'm thinking of people in college, the college age kids. Everyone loves pickleball. Everyone wants in. Everyone's sort of playing it for the first time and loving it. But there really aren't any tournaments that just kids in their like young 20s really can sign up for, especially that are like accessible from a school like that. But especially with like courts still having to be built at many universities, I feel like there's like a ton of potential there, no?
Completely agree. The collegiate scene will definitely drive some of the early adoption. And even before that, it could be high school, it could be, junior high, getting kids involved at early ages, showing them the fun, the passion, the excitement in competing. At the US Open, we had ages 8 to 88. So you get an incredible wide range of people who are competing. And, what's really fun about that is oftentimes it's multi-generational. So it's not only the 12-year-old or 22-year-old, there on their own competing. We had, for example, multi-generational families where they had grandkid, parent, and grandparent all competing in the US Open. And sometimes there's multiples at each one of those levels, 2 grandkids or 2 kids, 2 grandparents. And I think your comment on the collegiate side is spot on. And it doesn't, just sort of start there or end there. Pickleball Den, for example, provides the software to run tournaments all over the country. So you can run your tournament, your club, your league, and that could be, of course, any age. You could start a club, you can run it on Pickleball Den, you can run a tournament within that club, you can partner up with other clubs. One of the groups, for example, that uses Pickleball Den is Barstool Sports. And so if you go to their events, it tends to be a fairly young crowd. I think I looked at one of their recent events, and the majority of the people were under 30 years old. So it's a really unique sort of trend where you see more and more people of all ages. And certainly the more organized that gets, whether it's, junior high, middle school, high school, college, and beyond, I think that starts creating that funnel and will really help propel the growth of the sport.
Oh yeah, totally. And the opportunity that the Pickleball Den provides in that you can make your own tournament or your own club, what would make it qualify to be a club or a tournament? How many people would you need? What would you need to be like officially recognized as whatever you're trying to be?
Well, we should probably have more than just you and me, but you don't need
Right.
a large group. We see clubs that are literally groups of friends, and they're virtual, what you might call a flex club or a virtual club that forms and says, we're going to get together, we're going to play, every Tuesday night at our local park, or we've partnered with a facility and they're giving us time, every Thursday morning, and we're going to do a women's event on this day, and a men's league, and a couples league, and a juniors league, and a seniors league. So you can group, people together. We have clubs that are probably, as small as about 20-ish people. And we have some that are over 4,000. So, huge clubs. The interesting thing, and probably not surprising, is that you may start a club with 10 or 20 friends and, folks that that want to get together and play. And all of a sudden it's 300. I mean, it just balloons so fast. And the great thing about something like Pickleball Den, and I don't want this to be a commercial for Pickleball Den, but the idea of you can form that club and you can be as flexible or structured as you want. And I think that's the great thing about pickleball. It can be simply about getting together to play. So people sign up and they say, we're coming at 8 a.m., this location, this, set of courts, and we're just going to play and have fun. And it can also be, we're going to come at 10 a.m. and we're going to run a ladder, and we're all going to compete against each other. We're going to move up and down the levels of the ladder. So we're going to keep standings and rankings within our club, which is a lot of fun. One of the most popular features in our software. And you can do that, amongst any size people. Usually we see ladders that are 20 to 40 in size, and then there's multiples of them. Like I said, some of these clubs that have hundreds or thousands of people, they'll be running 10, 20 ladders every week.
And I totally feel like on the money side of things, that flexibility, that versatility of the sport is totally something that can be capitalized on in a way that is really different from any other sport. Especially like you were saying, how ages 8 to 88, there are professional championships for that. You don't really have that with anything else, maybe golf. But even so, they're different, very different types of sports to watch. So yeah, I just wanted to pivot a little bit real quick and talk about on your business side. The pickleball is not your first, step into the business world. How is it different than the stuff you've done before? You worked in media with some streaming companies like Roku. How is it different being on the pickleball Wild West sort of, meteoric rise era?
I think everything I've done has been different. And my first startup was an enterprise software company in the media technology space. So we sold into cable, satellite, telco, streaming companies, folks like that. A lot of fun, incredible, ride and journey. And my second then startup was Sling TV, streaming TV service. So I went from, being in the enterprise software business to business side of things to then direct to consumer. And, you had a product that consumers would sign up and use. And the interesting thing about pickleball is it's for at least what we're doing, we're literally right in the middle of that and the confluence of the two. So Pickleball Den is software that we create for tournament directors, club managers, league managers. So we're providing and selling into them, and then they're offering the product to their consumers. So it's sort of a business to consumer side of things. And on the tournament side or event side of things with the US Open, that's much more of a direct to consumer business, but it's a live event business. And I've never been in live events. When you need to consider, well, what happens when it rains? What happens if the power goes out? What happens if cell service or broadband goes down? What happens when somebody gets sick? All those kind of live event considerations and dozens of others. It really takes a unique, different skill set with a lot of people who are experts far beyond my experience in those areas. And I think what's really kind of good to keep in mind is somebody once said to me, you'll always enjoy what you do as long as you keep learning. And when you stop learning, you'll start thinking about all those other things. Do I want to live here? Do I make enough money? Is the job too far away? All these things that maybe you were willing to live with or overlook. And so, I truly believe that comment and that concept, continue to learn, keep, getting out of your comfort zone and figuring new things out. And that is as exciting to me, obviously within an area you enjoy. For me, sports, technology, media, but doing something, slightly new, slightly different, or completely new and different with live events as an example. I think that's a really fun and feel very fortunate to be able to explore those different areas.
Definitely. And it seems like, hosting live events like the massive pickleball championships or renting out the baseball stadiums and playing in there, that's as much of a shift as you can really get. And it sounds like you'd encourage people to take that on because it'll keep it fresh and exciting. Absolutely. Would you have any advice for people my age coming out of college who sort of, I don't know, maybe they have an idea or maybe they've got some sort of entrepreneurial spirit, and they want to sort of be where you are? What would you tell that person?
Yeah, 100%. It sounds easier than, what's behind it, but the simple advice is go for it. Don't ever, second guess yourself. Go for it. And what's behind that, a lot of people say, well, what do you mean go for it? How do I start? What's the step 1, 2, 3, et cetera? And, it's a interesting, sort of thought process because it's different for everybody. Step 1 of creating an event, for example, from scratch, or starting a software product or business, and figuring out, how do you listen to the consumer and hear what they want? Why is it that you want to do whatever it is you're thinking about? Your step 1 may be a little different than somebody else's, but, figure it out. Don't delay, get on it. But I think the other piece, and this is really, there's so many sayings and phrases, and if we had, weeks, I'd talk forever. But I think the really important thing is surrounding yourself with good people, attaching yourself with good people. We wouldn't have been able to do what we did at our first startup without the entire organization and team, and kind of working through what really makes us what we need. And same with Sling TV, and couldn't be more true at Pickle4. Our partners and the co-founders involved with Pickle4 are the best in the business with live events and technology and media. This is not by any stretch something that, like I said, I have the familiarity with. You mentioned the baseball stadiums and sort of live events. Our CEO, Mike D, that's his background, and that's his, live event world, being former president of the Red Sox, CEO of the Padres, CEO of the Miami Dolphins. He is, living and breathing that in a world and a level that most people never even understand or see. So I think it's, figuring out how to grow that network and find the right people to help you in that journey in whatever it is you're passionate about, but don't delay. Get to it.
Absolutely. So almost possibly the biggest part about bringing a company or a business to success is providing the right environment with the right people. But obviously, it's also extremely important to have the right product. And I want to sort of ask, you know, Pickle4 is this innovation, you know, forward-minded pickleball brand. What sort of drives the curiosity and creativity that goes into the products that Pickle4 comes up with?
So I think, you know, for me, I'm always erring on the side of product. You know, when you think about leadership and roles and things like that, particularly at the senior levels, if you're a founder, as an example, you might be more the founder who loves to sell and get out there and, you know, be in front of customers. You might be more the founder who likes to invent and technology, and that's kind of your thing. There's all different versions of this. You might be an operator who, you know, thinks about how to scale an organization and, you know, build something so that it can be a long-term sustainable business.
Mhm.
On the product side, which is what I tend to think a lot about, it's all about the customer. It's all about the end user. And so usually it starts with this curiosity. You know, I want to know how to, you know, do this, or how does this work? Or you start looking at it and saying, why doesn't it work this way? This seems silly. You know, it should be better, smoother, faster, more efficient. And the more you start talking to customers and hearing, well, this is the way I, you know, do my daily job, or I run my life in this area, you start to hear frequently common problems, common gaps or needs, and that might be then your, you know, wedge to go into that space. You know, just because you have a great idea, it may only be great to you. And so listening to the customer, you might take your idea and take it from great to, you know, out of this world, scalable, next generation, et cetera. Because you're taking this intellectual curiosity you have about, you know, how to create the best tournament software for pickleball, or how to create the best club software for pickleball. And you start talking to club managers and they say, you know, here's what we need, this, and this. And you think, oh, I thought what you needed was whatever. And you realize, you know, that's kind of a silly basic thing. Nobody needs that. Or I'm way ahead of the market, and that the market isn't ready for that. So molding, you know, your passion and interest and curiosity with what the customer really wants. A lot of times you hear we want to be a product centric company, and other people talk about we want to be a customer centric company. I think it's both, and you need to be a hybrid.
Mm.
So you're listening to the customer and you're doing what you think is the right thing to build that product, not exclusively, but together.
Oh, got you. And seeing as, you know, the Pickle4, one of the only sectors that hasn't really gotten into, and it is, you know, in pickleball, a major one is the paddle product creation. And hearing what you said about, you know, finding the gaps in what the customer actually wants. There are like 3 million paddle companies at this point. Is that a reason Pickle4 hasn't tried expanding into that? That there's just not a need?
If I could turn my camera, I'd show you this stack of paddles on the other side of my office, from partners and
Mhm.
manufacturers that we work with, and, you know, things we get to test and utilize.
Oh,
You know, I think it's somewhat do what you do best and do what you know best. And the team that was put together, the founders here, and myself, came together and said, you know, what we know and what we believe are the areas we can do the best at are, you know, technology, media, and events. And so that's kind of where we're focusing. Um, you know, really the don't try to do too much, don't boil the ocean, all those phrases come into play here. You know, if we wanted to create a product like a paddle or a ball or shoes, you know, some of the big categories, we'd really be probably diluting what we do, and we
mm,
probably would never get to be the best at maybe, you know, the software or maintaining the best event in pickleball. You know, if we start getting distracted by creating a paddle, the event may suffer, or the product, the technology may never realize its full potential. You know, a startup, you only have limited resources. If we had, you know, whatever, billions of dollars of capital, and we wanted to hire an entire team to go build a paddle, manufacture, test, design, et cetera, maybe. But it's not what we do. So, you know, for us, it's really about laser focus, figure out how to be the best at what we do.
I think that makes total sense. If you guys are on the innovation and integration side of things and it's going really well and there's clearly a need that you guys are satisfying, why try and go somewhere else where everyone else already has gone if you're already at the forefront of your own thing? But
And there's great products, by the way, out there, whether it's PALS or
exactly.
one of the other categories, we have incredible partners that we could work with. And I think that's really important to recognize too, like how much are you going to gain, versus maybe partnering with the folks who are the experts at it already.
Got you. Well, yeah, Ben, this has been an amazing conversation. Thanks so much for joining me today.
This is great, Elliot. Really appreciate it. And keep the paddles up.
Will do. We're all looking forward to see what the Pickle4 comes up with next.
Thank you.
Sweet.